Please subscribe now.
The Serpent Stone Part 2. Detective Inspector Alistair Finch carried the weight of the city's shadows in the lines etched around his perpetually weary eyes. Each crease told a silent story of late nights, cold leads, and the bitter taste of justice delayed, if not outright denied. His trench coat, perpetually rumpled, seemed to absorb the very dampness of London's underbelly, a second skin molded by years spent navigating its grimy alleys and opulent but equally treacherous drawing rooms. Unlike the romanticized detectives of pulp novels, Finch possessed no dazzling intellect or theatrical flair. His brilliance lay in his relentless persistence, a quiet observation honed over 2 decades on the force, and an almost unnerving ability to read the unspoken anxieties flickering in the eyes of the guilty. His own background was a muted melody played in a minor key. Orphaned young, he'd been raised in a strict, almost monastic boarding school, where the pursuit of logic and order was instilled with an iron fist. It was there, amidst the cold stone walls and the endless rows of books, that his fascination with puzzles had taken root, a quiet rebellion against the rigid structure. The human mind, he discovered, was the most intricate and often the most deceptive puzzle of all. He joined the police force not out of a sense of heroic duty, but with a quiet determination to bring order to the chaos he'd witnessed in the stark realities of the city. His current case landed on his desk with the quiet thud of a nightmare made real: the disappearance of renowned astrophysicist Dr. Evelyn Reed from her seemingly impenetrable penthouse apartment overlooking the Thames. There were no signs of forced entry, no ransom notes, just an echoing silence where a brilliant mind had once resided. The initial reports were frustratingly thin, a vacuum of evidence that seemed to mock the urgency of the situation. Dr. Reed was not just anyone. Her groundbreaking work on dark matter had earned her international acclaim, and her sudden vanishing act had sent ripples of unease through the scientific community and beyond. Finch leaned back in his worn leather chair, the scent of stale tobacco and old paper clinging to his office. He reread the preliminary report, his gaze lingering on the details that weren't there. A meticulous woman like Dr. Reed wouldn't simply vanish without a trace. There had to be something missed, some overlooked detail lurking in the periphery. He pulled out the sparse witness statements. A doorman who remembered her returning home late the previous evening, a neighbor who heard nothing unusual, a research assistant who was expecting her at the observatory that morning. Each account was a dead end, a smooth, unyielding wall. Finch's first instinct was to visit the scene himself. He found Dr. Reed's apartment exactly as the photographs depicted: sleek, minimalist, and unsettlingly sterile. The panoramic windows offered a breathtaking view of the city, but within the apartment, a palpable tension hung in the air, a ghost of the life that had abruptly ceased. He moved slowly through the rooms, his trained eyes scanning every surface. The expensive furniture was arranged with geometric precision, reflecting Dr. Reed's scientific mind. On her desk, amidst complex equations and star charts, sat a half-empty mug of tea, still lukewarm to the touch. It was as if she had simply stood up and walked away, leaving her life suspended in a single, ordinary moment. But Finch knew that such seamless disappearances were rarely ordinary. He ran his fingers along the smooth surfaces, searching for any irregularity, any sign of struggle. In the bedroom, the bed was neatly made, a stark contrast to the unease he felt. In the ensuite bathroom, her toiletries were precisely aligned. There was no indication of a hurried departure, no forgotten items, no hint of foul play visible to the casual observer. Yet something felt profoundly wrong. It was a subtle dissonance, a whisper of a disturbance beneath the polished veneer. Finch focused on the small details: a faint smudge on the otherwise spotless glass of a bookshelf, A single, almost imperceptible scratch on the lacquered surface of a bedside table. These tiny anomalies, invisible to the untrained eye, pricked at his awareness. He spent hours in the apartment, his methodical approach slowly building a more nuanced picture. He noted the specific titles of the books on her shelves, a blend of astrophysics, philosophy, and surprisingly, a section on ancient mythologies. He examined the digital devices, making a mental note for his team to thoroughly analyze their contents. As the afternoon wore on, Finch felt a growing conviction that Dr. Reed's disappearance was not voluntary. Someone had taken her, and they had been meticulous in covering their tracks. The lack of forced entry suggested either she knew her abductor or they possessed a key. He returned to Scotland Yard, his mind already piecing together the fragmented clues. He tasked his team with a comprehensive background check on Dr. Reed, delving into her personal and professional life, looking for any conflicts, any enemies, any unusual associations. He also ordered a thorough forensic examination of the apartment, emphasizing the need to look beyond the obvious. Days turned into a week, and the case remained stubbornly opaque. The media began to buzz with theories, ranging from a secret research project gone awry to a clandestine affair. Finch ignored the noise, his focus narrowed to the cold, hard facts, or rather, the frustrating lack thereof. The forensic report came back with a few intriguing but inconclusive findings. The smudge on the bookshelf glass contained traces of an unusual, almost metallic dust. The scratch on the bedside table was too faint to yield any discernible material. The digital analysis was ongoing, hampered by Dr. Reed's advanced security measures. Finch found himself drawn back to the list of books on Dr. Reed's shelves, particularly the section on ancient mythologies. It seemed an unusual interest for a cutting-edge astrophysicist. He pulled some of the titles himself, leafing through pages filled with tales of celestial beings, hidden realms, and cosmic forces. Was there a connection between her scientific pursuits and these ancient beliefs? He decided to interview Dr. Reed's closest colleagues at the observatory. They described her as brilliant but intensely private, a dedicated scientist with few close personal relationships. They were baffled by her disappearance, unable to offer any plausible explanation. One colleague, a younger astrophysicist named Dr. Ben Carter, mentioned a recent, somewhat heated debate Dr. Reed had been involved in regarding a controversial new theory that seemed to bridge the gap between modern physics and ancient cosmological concepts. Dr. Carter couldn't provide specifics but recalled Dr. Reed being unusually agitated by the discussion. This sparked a new line of inquiry for Finch. He delved into Dr. Reed's recent research papers and presentations, looking for any hint of this controversial theory. He found it buried within a complex paper on dark energy, a brief but provocative section exploring the potential for ancient myths to hold metaphorical or even symbolic truths about the universe. It was a long shot, but Finch decided to explore it further. He tasked his team with researching the specific mythologies represented in Dr. Reed's book collection, looking for any recurring themes or symbols that might relate to her work. The breakthrough came unexpectedly from Sergeant Miller, a sharp-witted officer with a knack for obscure details. He discovered that several of the myths in Dr. Reed's books featured a celestial serpent, often associated with hidden knowledge and cosmic secrets. Furthermore, this serpent was sometimes depicted coiled around a central point, a symbol that bore a striking resemblance to a complex diagram found amongst Dr. Reed's research notes, a diagram related to her calculations on dark matter distribution. Alistair Finch felt a familiar prickle of intuition. Could Dr. Reed have stumbled upon something profound, something that linked ancient beliefs to the very fabric of the universe? And if so, could that discovery have made her a target? He returned to Dr. Reed's apartment, his gaze now focused on the diagram Sergeant Miller had highlighted. It was intricate and beautiful, a swirling pattern of lines and curves that seemed to hint at hidden dimensions. He felt an almost visceral sense that this diagram held the key to her disappearance. He sat down at her desk, the silence of the apartment pressing in on him. He looked at the half-empty mug of tea, the equations scribbled on the notepad, the star charts spread across the surface. He tried to imagine Dr. Reed in this space, her brilliant mind wrestling with the mysteries of the cosmos. What had she seen? What had she discovered that had led to her vanishing? As he pondered these questions, his gaze fell upon a small, almost overlooked detail on the edge of the desk, a faint, circular indentation, similar to the one he had found in the Blackwood Manor library months ago. It was about the size of a coin, and its surface felt smooth and slightly worn. The memory of the Serpent Sigil case flashed through his mind, the eccentric Alistair Blackwood, his obsession with ancient lore, and the young Eleanor Blackwood who had paid the ultimate price for uncovering his secrets. Could there be a connection? Was it possible that Dr. Reed's research had somehow intersected with the same shadowy world of esoteric knowledge? The metallic dust found on the bookshelf glass suddenly took on a new significance. Could it be related to some artifact, some object imbued with a strange power or significance within these ancient mythologies? Finch felt the weight of the city's shadows deepen around him. The disappearance of Dr. Evelyn Reed was no longer a simple missing person case. It had become something far more complex, something that reached into the forgotten corners of history and the hidden dimensions of the universe. He knew that the answers he sought lay buried beneath layers of scientific brilliance and ancient secrets, and he was only just beginning to scratch the surface. The silence of Dr. Reed's penthouse, once sterile, now felt heavy with unspoken truths, waiting to be unearthed. And Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, the quiet observer of the city's darkness, was ready to listen. Finch's investigation took a detour into the labyrinthine world of antiquarian societies and rare book dealers. He tasked Sergeant Miller with tracking down any known associates of Dr. Reed who might share her interest in ancient mythologies or possess knowledge of esoteric artifacts. The initial leads were sparse, dead ends that led to dusty archives and eccentric collectors with little to offer. However, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Ben Carter, Dr. Reed's colleague. Haunted by her disappearance and driven by a sense of unease, Dr. Carter had been independently reviewing some of her older research notes. He stumbled upon a series of cryptic annotations in the margins, references to specific texts on Hermeticism and alchemy, and recurring mentions of a Serpent Stone. Intrigued, Dr. Carter did some research of his own and discovered that the Serpent Stone was a legendary artifact, rumored to possess immense power and linked to ancient celestial cults. Its existence was largely considered folklore, a myth whispered in hushed tones within obscure circles. He immediately contacted Finch. The mention of a serpent stone sent a jolt through Finch. The celestial serpent motif, the connection to ancient cults, it all echoed the themes he had encountered in the Blackwood Manor case. Could this legendary artifact be the link between Dr. Reed's scientific research and her sudden disappearance? And could the metallic dust found in her apartment be residue from this mythical stone? Finch's focus intensified. He directed Sergeant Miller to delve deeper into the legends surrounding the Serpent Stone, to uncover any historical accounts, any rumored locations, any individuals or groups who might believe in its existence and seek its power. The research proved to be a tangled web of folklore, religious texts, and pseudoscientific theories. The Serpent Stone appeared in various cultures under different names, often associated with creation myths, cycles of destruction and rebirth, and the unlocking of cosmic energies. Its descriptions were vague and contradictory, ranging from a smooth, obsidian-like rock to a crystalline structure that pulsed with an inner light. Despite the lack of concrete information, Finch sensed a growing urgency. If Dr. Reed had indeed discovered something about the Serpent Stone, perhaps even its potential location, it could explain why she had vanished. Someone else might be after the same knowledge, willing to take extreme measures to obtain it. He revisited Dr. Reed's apartment, his mind now searching for any clue related to the Serpent Stone. He paid closer attention to her book collection on mythology, looking for any volumes that specifically mentioned the artifact. He found several, their pages marked and annotated, particularly a heavily worn copy of an obscure text on ancient Sumerian cosmology. Within this book, Finch found a hand-drawn sketch tucked between the pages. It depicted the celestial serpent coiled around a stylized stone, which bore a striking resemblance to the central point in Dr. Reed's dark matter distribution diagram. Beneath the sketch was a single word written in elegant script, Dilmun. Finch's pulse quickened. Dilmun was a legendary land mentioned in Sumerian epics, often described as a paradise, a place where the sun rose and the first humans were created. It was also sometimes associated with hidden treasures and divine knowledge. Could Dr. Reed have believed that the Serpent Stone was located in this mythical realm, or that the legend of Dilmun held a clue to its whereabouts? He tasked his team with researching the historical and mythological significance of Dilmun, looking for any geographical locations or archaeological sites that might be connected to the legend. The search led them to the island of Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, a site with ancient ruins believed by some scholars to be the inspiration for the Dilmun myth. Could Dr. Reed have traveled to Bahrain? There was no record of her leaving the country, unless she had been taken there. Finch considered the metallic dust again. He sent a sample for a more specialized analysis, hoping to identify its exact composition and potentially link it to geological formations in the Bahrain region or to any known artifacts from ancient Sumerian sites. Days crawled by, each one adding to the mounting pressure. The media was relentless, and the scientific community was demanding answers. Finch felt the weight of expectation, the silent accusation in every unanswered question. Then came another unexpected lead. Dr. Carter, still diligently searching through Dr. Reed's belongings, found a hidden compartment behind a framed photograph in her study. Inside, he discovered a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was locked, but Dr. Carter, recalling Finch's previous case, refrained from opening it and immediately contacted him. Finch rushed to Dr. Reed's apartment. The box was small, no larger than a jewelry case, and crafted from a dark, unidentifiable wood. Its surface was adorned with delicate carvings that seemed to depict celestial patterns and serpentine figures. The circular indentation on Dr. Reed's desk was a perfect match for its base. He carefully took possession of the box and had it transported to Scotland Yard. A skilled locksmith was able to open it without damaging the intricate lock. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a single object, a smooth, obsidian-like stone, roughly the size of a large coin. It was cool to the touch and seemed to absorb the light, radiating a subtle sense of ancient power. As Finch gazed at the stone, he noticed a faint, almost invisible symbol etched into its surface, the same circular sigil intersected by 3 equidistant lines that he had encountered in the Blackwood Manor case. The connection was undeniable. Dr. Evelyn Reed's disappearance was somehow linked to the same esoteric world that had claimed Eleanor Blackwood's life. The Serpent Stone, the celestial serpent mythology, the recurring sigil, the pieces of the puzzle were beginning to align, forming a dark and disturbing picture. But who else knew about the Serpent Stone? Who else was involved in this shadowy pursuit of ancient power? And what role did Dr. Reed play in this dangerous game? Was she a seeker, a guardian, or a victim? Finch knew he was getting closer to the truth, but the path ahead was shrouded in mystery and fraught with peril. The secrets surrounding the Serpent Stone were ancient and deeply guarded, and those who sought its power would likely stop at nothing to obtain it. The disappearance of Dr. Evelyn Reed was just the beginning of a much larger and far more dangerous story, a story that reached back millennia and touched upon the very mysteries of the cosmos. And Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, the pragmatic detective grounded in the realities of the modern world, found himself stepping into a realm where science and myth intertwined, and where the pursuit of knowledge could lead to the darkest of ends. The obsidian stone in the small wooden box pulsed with a silent energy, a silent promise of revelations to come, and Finch knew that the answers it held would be both profound and terrifying. Please like this video, share, comment, and subscribe now to hear more stories if you haven't already. That means a lot. The analysis of the obsidian stone yielded more questions than answers. It was composed of an unknown mineral with unusual energy-absorbing properties. The faint sigil etched into its surface defied conventional dating techniques, suggesting an origin far older than any known civilization. The metallic dust found in Dr. Reed's apartment was a trace element found within the stone's composition, confirming a direct link. Finch delved deeper into the Sumerian cosmology and the legends of Dilmun, searching for any mention of the Serpent Stone or a similar artifact associated with the sigil. He discovered that the serpent deity in Sumerian mythology, Ninjishzaida, was often depicted entwined with the roots of a cosmic tree, a symbol of knowledge and immortality. Ninjishzaida was also associated with healing and magic, a duality that hinted at the stone's potential power. The legend of Dilmun described it as a land untouched by sickness or death, a paradise where the waters beneath the earth mingled with the celestial ocean. Some interpretations linked Dilmun to a source of primordial energy, a nexus point between the mortal and divine realms. Could the Serpent Stone be a key to accessing this energy? Had Dr. Reed believed she was on the verge of a scientific breakthrough by understanding its properties? And who else shared this belief? Finch's team had been diligently investigating Dr. Reed's personal and professional contacts. They uncovered a series of encrypted emails between Dr. Reed and an unknown individual using the pseudonym Ouroboros, the ancient symbol of a serpent eating its own tail, representing cyclicality and eternity. The content of the emails was heavily coded, filled with scientific jargon and mythological references, but Finch's cryptographers were slowly beginning to decipher them. One recurring theme in the decrypted messages was a shared interest in unlocking the celestial currents and the harmony of spheres, phrases that seemed to blend scientific concepts with esoteric philosophy. There were also veiled references to a sacred lineage and a hidden brotherhood dedicated to preserving ancient knowledge. Could Dr. Reed have become involved with a secret society obsessed with the Serpent Stone and its potential power? Was Ouroboros a member of this group, and had their collaboration turned deadly? Finch instructed his team to focus on identifying the individual behind the Ouroboros pseudonym. They traced the email addresses, analyzed IP logs, and cross-referenced Dr. Reed's known associates, but the trail remained elusive. Ouroboros was a ghost in the digital ether, a carefully masked identity. Meanwhile, Finch decided to revisit the Blackwood Manor case files. He reread his notes on Alistair Blackwood's obsession with the occult and the recurring serpent sigil. He recalled the silver amulet found in Blackwood's possession bearing the same mark as the one on the obsidian stone. Could there be a historical link between the Blackwood family and this secret society? Had Alistair Blackwood been aware of the Serpent Stone? And if so, how did Dr. Reed come to possess it? He tasked Sergeant Miller with researching the history of the Blackwood family, looking for any connections to esoteric orders or individuals with a known interest in the occult. The Blackwood lineage, it turned out, was long and somewhat shrouded in mystery, with rumors of clandestine activities and eccentric members throughout the centuries. One name stood out: Lord Harrington Blackwood, a 19th-century ancestor known for his extensive travels to the Middle East and his fascination with ancient artifacts. Historical records indicated that Lord Harrington had amassed a significant collection of antiquities, many of which had mysteriously disappeared after his death. Could the Serpent Stone have been part of Lord Harrington Blackwood's collection? Had it somehow remained within the family's possession, eventually finding its way to Alistair, and then perhaps to Dr. Reed? The timeline was hazy, but the possibility was intriguing. As Finch pieced together the fragments of information, a chilling scenario began to take shape. Dr. Evelyn Reed, in her pursuit of understanding the universe, might have stumbled upon the existence of the Serpent Stone and its connection to ancient knowledge. She might have then sought out others who shared her interest, leading her into contact with a clandestine group, perhaps the hidden brotherhood mentioned in the emails. But their intentions might not have aligned with hers. Perhaps they sought to exploit the stone's power for their own purposes, and Dr. Reed, realizing the danger, had tried to break away. Or perhaps she possessed a piece of the puzzle they needed, the location of the stone, or the key to unlocking its secrets, and they had taken her to get it. The encrypted emails hinted at a meeting that was supposed to take place shortly before Dr. Reed's disappearance, a gathering referred to as the Conjunction. The location was coded, but Finch's cryptographers were working tirelessly to decipher it. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Finch felt the frustration of chasing shadows, of piecing together a puzzle with missing and deliberately obscured pieces. But he refused to give up. The image of the obsidian stone, cool and ancient in its velvet cradle, fueled his determination. He knew that Dr. Evelyn Reed's life depended on unraveling the secrets it held. Finally, the breakthrough came. The cryptographers managed to decipher the location of the Conjunction, a remote, historic manor in the English countryside, a place with a known history of occult gatherings. Finch mobilized his team. He knew they were running out of time. If Dr. Reed was being held captive, her life could be in imminent danger. He felt a grim certainty that the answers he sought, and the individual behind Ouroboros, awaited him at this secluded manor, shrouded in secrecy and steeped in the echoes of ancient rituals. The celestial serpent's coil was tightening, and Detective Inspector Alistair Finch was about to step into its deadly embrace. As Finch's unmarked car sped through the winding country lanes towards the remote manor, a sense of foreboding settled in the pit of his stomach. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient trees, and the silence of the countryside felt heavy, expectant. This was no ordinary crime scene. It felt like stepping into a forgotten chapter of history, where arcane beliefs held sway. The manor itself was a Gothic monstrosity, its dark stone walls and towering gables silhouetted against the twilight sky. A palpable air of decay and secrecy clung to it, as if the very stones held their breath, guarding the secrets within. Finch and his team approached cautiously, the only sounds the crunch of their shoes on the gravel driveway and the distant hoot of an owl. The manor appeared deserted, but Finch's instincts told him otherwise. He had learned over the years to trust the subtle unease that prickled his skin, the silent warnings whispered by experience. They breached the heavy oak front doors, which, surprisingly, were unlocked, and stepped into a cavernous entrance hall. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight filtering through stained glass windows depicting strange, celestial symbols. The air inside was cold and still, carrying the faint, musty odor of old books and something else, something vaguely metallic and unsettlingly familiar. Finch's team spread out, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The manor was a labyrinth of echoing corridors, forgotten chambers, and staircases that creaked under their weight. Each room they entered was filled with antique furniture draped in white sheets, as if awaiting a long-delayed resurrection. The silence was broken only by their hushed whispers and the occasional creak of the old house settling. They found a library-lined floor to ceiling with ancient tomes, many bearing titles related to alchemy, astrology, and forgotten religions. Finch recognized several of the texts from Dr. Reed's apartment. In the center of the room, a large, circular table was covered with astrological charts and diagrams, eerily similar to those found amongst Dr. Reed's research notes. In a hidden alcove behind a revolving bookcase, they discovered a makeshift laboratory. Alchemical apparatus, strange vials filled with viscous liquids, and fragments of what looked like obsidian littered the surfaces. The metallic scent was stronger here, and Finch noticed traces of the same unusual dust found in Dr. Reed's apartment. The deeper they ventured into the manor, the stronger the sense became that this was the headquarters of the hidden brotherhood mentioned in Dr. Reed's emails. This was a place where ancient beliefs and esoteric practices were not just studied, but actively pursued. Finally, they reached a large octagonal chamber in the heart of the manor. The air here hummed with a palpable energy. In the center of the room, a raised dais was marked with the Serpent Sigil, intricately inlaid in what looked like silver. Upon the dais rested a pedestal, and on the pedestal, the obsidian Serpent Stone pulsed with a faint, inner luminescence. Around the chamber, hooded figures stood in silent vigil, their faces obscured by deep shadows. They held themselves with an air of quiet intensity, their eyes fixed on the stone. In front of the dais, bound and gagged, sat Dr. Evelyn Reed. Before Finch or his team could react, one of the hooded figures stepped forward. He was taller than the others, his presence radiating an aura of authority. He removed his hood, revealing a gaunt face with piercing eyes that seemed to hold an unsettling depth of knowledge. "Detective Inspector Finch," the figure said, his voice a smooth, chillingly calm baritone. "We have been expecting you." Finch recognized the voice. It was Ouroboros. "Who are you?" Finch demanded, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "I am the guardian of the ancient wisdom," Ouroboros replied, his gaze fixed on the Serpent Stone, the keeper of the celestial currents. "We are the inheritors of a sacred lineage, entrusted with preserving the knowledge of the cosmos." "And Dr. Reed?" Finch asked, his eyes flicking to the bound astrophysicist. "Dr. Reed was a seeker," Ouroboros said, a hint of disappointment in his voice. "She glimpsed the truth, but her understanding was incomplete. She sought to dissect the mysteries of the universe with the crude tools of science, failing to grasp the deeper, spiritual harmony." "You kidnapped her," Finch stated, his voice hardening. "We merely guided her," Ouroboros countered. "She possessed a key, a fragment of understanding that we required for the conjunction." He gestured to the Serpent Stone. "The alignment is near. The veil between worlds is thinning. With the Serpent Stone and the proper knowledge, we can unlock the true potential of the universe." Finch's mind raced. This was more than just a kidnapping. This was about a dangerous obsession, a fanatical belief in the power of an ancient artifact. "And what is that potential?" Finch asked, trying to buy time. Ouroboros's eyes gleamed with an almost manic intensity. "Immortality, enlightenment, the transcendence of mortal limitations, the joining of our consciousness with the celestial currents." "And what role does Dr. Reed play in this conjunction?" Ouroboros's gaze flickered towards Dr. Reed, a hint of something cold and calculating in his eyes. "Her scientific knowledge, combined with the stone's energy, she is the catalyst. Her understanding of dark matter resonates with the stone's primordial vibrations." Finch understood. Dr. Reed wasn't just a prisoner. She was a vital component of their ritual. "This is madness," Finch said, his voice laced with disgust. "You're talking about fantasy, not science." Ouroboros chuckled softly. "Science is but a limited perspective, Inspector. There are forces at play in this universe that your modern understanding cannot comprehend." Suddenly, Finch noticed one of the hooded figures subtly shift their position. It was Sergeant Miller, who had managed to infiltrate their ranks during the initial entry. He gave Finch a barely perceptible nod. The time for talking was over. "Release Dr. Reed," Finch ordered, drawing his weapon. "This ends now." Ouroboros' calm demeanor vanished, replaced by a flash of anger. "You cannot stop what is destined to occur, Inspector. The Serpent Stone's power is beyond your comprehension." At his command, the other hooded figures moved forward, their hands reaching beneath their robes. A tense standoff ensued. Finch and his team were outnumbered, but they held their ground, weapons raised. The air crackled with anticipation. Just as the confrontation was about to escalate, a piercing alarm blared through the manor. It was the signal from other members of Finch's team, who had secured the perimeter and were now moving in. Chaos erupted. The hooded figures scattered, some attempting to flee, others lunging towards Finch and his team. The octagonal chamber became a scene of frantic struggle. Finch focused on Ouroboros, who was making his way towards the dais and the Serpent Stone. He knew that stopping him was paramount. He fought his way through the melee, his years of experience on the force serving him well. He reached Ouroboros just as he placed his hands on the obsidian stone. A surge of energy seemed to emanate from the artifact, and Ouroboros' eyes rolled back in his head. Before anything else could happen, Finch tackled Ouroboros, knocking him away from the pedestal. The Serpent Stone tumbled to the floor with a dull thud. The chamber fell silent. The remaining hooded figures surrendered. Dr. Reed was quickly freed, shaken but unharmed. As Finch stood over the subdued Ouroboros, who was now muttering incoherently, he looked at the Serpent Stone lying on the cold stone floor. It seemed inert, its inner luminescence extinguished. The answers he had sought were here, in this ancient manor, amidst the remnants of a dangerous delusion. Dr. Evelyn Reed was safe, and the hidden brotherhood's pursuit of forbidden knowledge had been brought to an end. But as Finch looked at the obsidian stone, a sliver of doubt lingered in his mind. Had they truly understood the extent of its power? Had they merely scratched the surface of the ancient secrets it held? The universe, he knew, was full of mysteries far beyond human comprehension, and sometimes the pursuit of knowledge could lead down paths darker and more perilous than any nightmare. The Serpent Stone remained silent, a cold, enigmatic reminder of the unseen forces that might still lie coiled in the shadows, waiting for the next conjunction. The aftermath at the manor was a whirlwind of forensic teams, bewildered local police, and the hushed whispers of the rescued Dr. Reed. Ouroboros, whose real name was revealed to be Alistair Thorne, the descendant of Lord Harrington Blackwood, was taken into custody, his ramblings about celestial alignments and cosmic consciousness falling on deaf ears. The other members of the hidden brotherhood were a mix of disillusioned academics, wealthy eccentrics, and individuals drawn to the allure of forbidden knowledge, all equally captivated by Thorne's charismatic but ultimately deluded vision. Dr. Reed, though physically unharmed, was deeply shaken by the experience. She recounted how Thorne and his followers had been monitoring her research, convinced that her work on dark matter held the key to understanding and harnessing the Serpent Stone's power. They had lured her to the manor under false pretenses of a scientific collaboration, only to reveal their true, esoteric intentions. She confirmed the encrypted communications with Ouroboros, initially seeing Thorne as a fellow intellectual with an unusual interest in ancient cosmology, never suspecting the extent of his obsession. The Serpent Stone was carefully catalogued and secured, Its unusual composition and energy-absorbing properties remained a mystery to modern science. Finch ensured it was placed in a secure, undisclosed location, far from those who might seek to exploit its unknown potential. As the investigation drew to a close, Finch sat in his office, the familiar scent of stale tobacco and old paper a comforting anchor in the wake of the bizarre events. He reread the files on both the Blackwood Manor case and the disappearance of Dr. Reed. The Serpent Sigil, once a seemingly isolated symbol of a family's dark obsession, now appeared as a thread connecting two seemingly disparate events across time. Lord Harrington Blackwood's travels to the Middle East, his acquisition of ancient artifacts, the disappearance of those artifacts after his death. It all suggested that he had indeed encountered the Serpent Stone and become entangled in its mysteries. The amulet found in Alistair Blackwood's possession was likely a relic passed down through the family, a silent testament to their ancestors' dangerous fascination. How the Serpent Stone had then found its way from the Blackwood family to Dr. Reed remained an unanswered question. Perhaps Lord Harrington had secreted it away, and it had been rediscovered centuries later. Or perhaps it had been acquired by someone else entirely before Dr. Reed unknowingly came into possession of it through an antiquarian purchase or an unexpected inheritance, a detail that remained elusive despite extensive inquiries. Finch knew that some questions might never have definitive answers. The veil of time and the secrecy surrounding such esoteric pursuits often obscured the full truth. He leaned back in his chair, the weariness in his eyes deepening. Two cases, seemingly unrelated, bound by an ancient symbol and the dangerous allure of hidden knowledge. Alistair Blackwood's descent into deadly ritualistic practices, fueled by his belief in the Serpent Sigil, had cost Eleanor Blackwood her life. Alistair Thorne's obsession with the Serpent Stone, a more evolved but equally perilous manifestation of that same ancient fascination, had led him to kidnap Dr. Reed and attempt a potentially catastrophic ritual. The pattern was disturbing. The pursuit of forbidden knowledge, whether through dusty tomes of the occult or the cutting edge of scientific discovery, could lead down treacherous paths, blurring the lines between reality and delusion, between enlightenment and destruction. The Serpent Sigil, it seemed, was not just a symbol. It was a warning, a mark of an ancient power that could corrupt and consume those who sought to wield it without understanding its true nature. As the city lights flickered to life outside his window, casting long shadows across his desk, Finch felt a profound sense of the enduring darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the modern world. The rational mind, the scientific method, these were fragile bulwarks against the primal urges and ancient beliefs that still held sway in the hidden corners of human consciousness. He knew that his work was far from over. The world was full of secrets, and the human heart, with its capacity for both brilliance and madness, would continue to seek them out, often at great peril. Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, the quiet observer of the city's shadows, would be there to pick up the pieces when those pursuits led to darkness and despair, forever bearing the weight of the mysteries he had uncovered and the knowledge that some serpents, both literal and metaphorical, never truly shed their skin. The silence of his office was broken only by the rhythmic tick of the clock, a steady reminder of the relentless march of time and the endless cycle of secrets waiting to be revealed. Years passed. The Thorne case faded from the headlines, becoming another grim anecdote in the annals of London's stranger crimes. Dr. Evelyn Reed, after a period of recovery, cautiously returned to her research, albeit with a newfound awareness of the blurry edges where science and the unexplained might intersect. The Serpent Stone remained locked away, a silent, enigmatic artifact in the custody of the authorities. Detective Inspector Alistair Finch continued his work, his weary gaze still scanning the undercurrents of the city. He solved other cases, each one a unique tapestry of human folly and desperation. but the echoes of the Serpent Sigil and the obsidian stone lingered in the back of his mind, a persistent reminder of the hidden layers of reality. One particularly bleak winter morning, a new case landed on his desk, stirring a disquieting sense of déjà vu. A renowned historian specializing in ancient Middle Eastern cultures, Professor Alistair Croft, had vanished from his locked study. There were no signs of forced entry, and the only unusual detail was a single playing card left on his desk, the Queen of Spades. Finch felt a familiar chill. The Queen of Spades, the hidden compartment in Alistair Blackwood's library, the association with secrets and hidden knowledge. Was this a mere coincidence, or was the Serpent Sigil casting its shadow once more? Professor Croft's study, when Finch examined it, was a chaotic repository of ancient texts, maps, and artifacts. His current research focused on the early Sumerian civilization and, more specifically, on the legends surrounding Dilmun. Finch's blood ran cold as he noted several heavily annotated books on Sumerian cosmology, including the same obscure text that Dr. Reed had possessed. As Finch meticulously surveyed the room, he noticed a faint circular indentation on the edge of Professor Croft's antique writing desk. It was the same size and shape as the base of the wooden box that had contained the Serpent Stone. The connection was undeniable. Professor Croft had somehow come into contact with the Serpent Stone or knowledge related to it. Had he followed the same path as Dr. Reed, delving too deep into ancient secrets? And had that path led to his disappearance? Finch's investigation into Professor Croft's background revealed that he had recently acquired a previously unknown collection of Sumerian tablets. Rumors within the academic community suggested these tablets contained groundbreaking information about Dilmun and its vast to a powerful, celestial artifact. Could Professor Croft have deciphered a clue to the Serpent Stone's current location or a deeper understanding of its powers? Had someone, perhaps a remnant of Thorn's group or a new, unseen player, sought to silence him and seize his knowledge? The Queen of Spades on the desk remained a perplexing clue. Was it a calling card, a warning, or a symbolic message? Finch's research into the occult significance of the card revealed its continued association with mystery, secrets, and sometimes death. Finch found himself revisiting the locked storage facility where the Serpent Stone was secured. He examined it closely, searching for any new markings or changes. It remained inert, a silent, obsidian enigma. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that it was the center of a web that continued to expand, drawing in those who dared to peer into its ancient mysteries. The disappearance of Professor Croft served as a stark reminder that the allure of forbidden knowledge was timeless and that the Serpent Sigil, in its various manifestations, could resurface in unexpected ways. The forces Thorn had sought to harness might still be at play, their influence reaching beyond the confines of a remote manor and into the lives of those who brushed against the edges of their ancient secrets. Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, his weariness now tinged with a grim resignation, knew that his watch was far from over. The shadows of the past had a long reach, and the pursuit of cosmic mysteries could lead to earthly tragedies. He picked up the file on Professor Croft, the Queen of Spades staring back at him from the evidence photograph. The game, it seemed, was not yet over. The serpent might have been momentarily subdued, but its ancient power continued to ripple through the world, waiting for another seeker, another believer, another victim. And Alistair Finch would be there, standing in the ever-present shadows, ready to confront whatever darkness the Serpent Sigil might unleash next. The investigation into Professor Croft's disappearance became a frustrating exercise in chasing echoes. His digital footprint revealed a flurry of late-night research sessions focusing on Sumerian star charts and linguistic analysis of the newly acquired tablets. He had also made several encrypted online contacts with individuals using obscure pseudonyms, a pattern disturbingly similar to Dr. Reed's interactions with Ouroboros. Finch's team managed to decrypt some of Professor Croft's communications, revealing a growing excitement about a potential rediscovery of Dillman's celestial key and references to a hidden chamber and a legacy guarded by silence. The language was cryptic, blending academic terminology with esoteric undertones, hinting at a discovery that transcended conventional historical understanding. The Sumerian tablets themselves were a source of intense interest among scholars. Initial translations confirmed their focus on Dillman, but certain passages contained unusual astronomical alignments and symbolic language that defied easy interpretation, suggesting a deeper, possibly cosmological significance. Finch considered the possibility that Professor Croft had indeed found a tangible link to the Serpent Stone or a similar artifact, perhaps even a clue to its original purpose or the nature of its power. The hidden chamber and legacy guarded by silence could refer to a physical location or a body of secret knowledge passed down through generations. The Queen of Spades remained the most unsettling clue. Its deliberate placement on Professor Croft's desk suggested a connection to the occult underworld or someone familiar with the symbolic language Finch had encountered in the Blackwood case. He tasked his team with investigating known occult groups and individuals with an interest in ancient Sumerian mythology. But the leads were scant and often unreliable. Weeks turned into months, and Professor Croft remained missing. The official investigation eventually went cold, filed away as an unsolved case. But Alistair Finch couldn't shake the feeling that the answers lay hidden within the cryptic clues Professor Croft had left behind, intertwined with the enduring mystery of the Serpent Sigil. One rainy afternoon, while revisiting the case files, Finch noticed a small detail he had previously overlooked in the photographs of Professor Croft's study. Tucked away on a shelf behind a stack of cuneiform tablets was a familiar leather-bound journal. Its cover was unadorned, save for a faint, almost invisible symbol embossed in the center, the circle intersected by 3 equidistant lines. The Serpent Sigil. Finch felt a jolt of recognition. It was identical to the journal he had found in Alistair Blackwood's study years ago. How had Professor Croft, a historian specializing in ancient Mesopotamia, come into possession of such an artifact? He retrieved the journal from storage. Its pages were filled with the same elegant, spidery handwriting and the same cryptic blend of archaic Latin and Middle Eastern dialects. The sketches of peculiar symbols and astronomical charts were also eerily familiar. It was as if he were holding a ghost from a past investigation. As Finch delved back into the translated passages from Blackwood's journals, a disturbing connection began to emerge. Blackwood's writings hinted at his belief that the Serpent Sigil was not merely a symbol but a key, a focal point for accessing ancient energies and establishing contact with entities beyond the mortal realm. He wrote of a bloodline connected to the serpent and the need to reclaim the celestial inheritance. Could Professor Croft have been a descendant of this bloodline? Had he unknowingly inherited the journal or sought it out as part of his research into Dillman and its secrets? Finch's investigation took a new direction. He began to trace Professor Croft's ancestry, delving into historical records and genealogical databases. The task was painstaking, but after weeks of diligent searching, he uncovered a faint but undeniable link between the Croft family and a lesser-known branch of the Blackwood lineage, a branch that had emigrated from England to the Middle East centuries ago and later returned. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Professor Croft, driven by his academic curiosity and perhaps an unconscious pull from his ancestry, had likely stumbled upon the deeper, esoteric significance of Dillman and its connection to the Serpent Sigil. He might have even discovered the existence of the Serpent Stone or sought to understand its true nature. The Queen of Spades on his desk now seemed less like a random clue and more like a deliberate message, a calling card from someone else aware of this hidden lineage and the power associated with the sigil. Had Professor Croft's research attracted unwanted attention from a still active group, perhaps a more secretive and dangerous faction than Thorne's misguided followers? Finch felt a weariness that went beyond the exhaustion of a long career. The Serpent Sigil seemed to be a recurring motif in a long and shadowy narrative, a symbol of an enduring obsession that transcended generations. The pursuit of ancient power, the blurring of lines between myth and reality, the dangerous allure of forbidden knowledge. These were forces that continued to shape human events in ways unseen and often deadly. Professor Croft remained missing, another victim claimed by the enduring mystery of the serpent. Finch knew that the silence surrounding his disappearance was likely deliberate, a testament to the deep-seated secrecy that guarded these ancient truths. The case would likely remain unsolved, another cold file gathering dust. But Detective Inspector Alistair Finch would never truly forget the Serpent Sigil. It had become a permanent fixture in his understanding of the world, a reminder that beneath the veneer of modernity lay ancient currents, still capable of pulling individuals into their dark and mysterious depths. As the years continued to pass and new cases crossed his desk, he would always keep a watchful eye for that familiar circle intersected by 3 lines, a silent harbinger of secrets best left undisturbed and the enduring power of the serpent's ancient sway. And so, Detective Inspector Alistair Finch carried the weight of these unsolved mysteries, the echoes of the Serpent Sigil a constant hum beneath the surface of his long career. Each new case, each flicker of the uncanny, would bring a momentary tightening in his chest, a silent question of whether the ancient serpent was stirring once more in the hidden corners of the world. The Queen of Spades remained in his personal files, a stark reminder of the historian lost to the lure of the past. And the Serpent Stone lay dormant, its obsidian surface reflecting nothing but the cold indifference of time, waiting for an unknown future and the next hand that might reach for its enigmatic power.